Welcome back to Purposeful Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Bernardi, founder and CEO of Nardi Media, where we uplift the voices of those who are uplifting the world. And this podcast, Purposeful, is one of the most meaningful ways we get to do just that. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Pamela J. Pine, a global public health leader, advocate, professor, best-selling author, and founder of Stop the Silence, a department of the Institute on Violence, Abuse, and Trauma. Dr. Pine has spent decades working in international health, development, and communications. And for the past 25 years, her specialty has been in preventing and mitigating child sexual abuse and other adverse childhood experiences. Her latest work continues a lifelong mission, raising awareness, interrupting silence, and equipping communities to transform harm into hope. Dr. Pine is also a 2025 Voices of Courage Award recipient, and her creativity as a multimedia artist brings a rare blend of heart, humanity, and technical expertise to everything she touches. This is a conversation about breaking silence, building safer communities, and why every one of us has a role in protecting children and preventing trauma. Let's dive in. Pamela, thank you so much for joining the Purposeful Podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great introduction that was.
Oh, well, I am just honored to have you here and dive into this important discussion. Just as a mom to three girls myself, this is a topic that I'm always very curious and interested in learning more about how I can be an advocate and steward for change in this world. So thank you. Um,
So
I want to first talk about how you spent your adult life focused on supporting vulnerable populations around the world. What first sparked your passion for global health and service?
a few things. I grew up in a household. I was one of the lucky ones. I grew up in a household that was enormously supportive of everything really that I wanted to do. So the various of my passions, there was an interest in social systems and people and contributing to the betterment of society, along with my interest in animals and art and everything else and science. So I got a lot of support early on and through my growing up. And then in high school, I was chosen as my high school's international exchange student.
Mm.
And at the age of 16, having never been on an airplane before, I was on my way to India to live in
Whoa.
Mumbai with a family there. And the what I learned in the time that I was there was hugely impactful in terms of my understanding of the world, the understanding of people who live differently than I did,
Mm.
culture, language, everything. And when I graduated from college, I joined Peace Corps
Hmm.
because of this lingering interest and was sent to Yemen, where I worked in a leprosy hospital for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yemen was a place back then that nobody had even heard of, let alone been to. And again, I was exposed to this amazing focus on new culture, new environments. I ended up speaking Arabic fluently.
Wow.
I was working with only Yemenis, and otherwise, I was working with five sisters, Mother Teresa's missionaries of charity.
Mhm.
So, besides them who spoke English to me, I was speaking Arabic all day long.
Wow.
And I just kept going, Ashley. I went from Yemen to Ethiopia to Egypt to Morocco to Japan. And then I came back to the United States and I got a job in international health and development and just kept going back and forth and back and forth. Literally at this point, from Latin America all the way around the world to Oceania. And it's been a fascinating time. And then, as you say, and we'll get into more about, I started getting aware of the issue of first child sexual abuse, and then other adverse childhood experiences. And we'll talk more about that as well.
Right, of course. And what a journey from, I mean, I'm about to have a 16-year-old, so just I can see that 16-year-old Pamela leave for India. What an experience that I feel like it sounds like it had such an impact on you. You just kept going and going and going and going. What I'm just curious, what was it like doing this for so many years and then transitioning back to the United States? Because I imagine that might have been a little jarring.
It was harder coming home than it was going away.
Yeah.
You're expecting things to be new and different, and you're open to the possibilities. When you come back to the United States after living in 4 or 5 different cultures and countries, and you land back in your hometown where people are expecting you to be exactly the same,
Mm-hmm.
and you expect to fit right back in, the experience honestly was more than jarring, and it took me, I would say, a good 10 years, if I'm being honest,
Mm-hmm.
to feel like I belong here in the United States at all. Nobody was interested in what I had experienced. They didn't know where these places were. There was not an orientation about other cultures or environments. Nobody, frankly, asked me much of anything. And my entire worldview had changed. And my entire feelings, honestly, about the place of the United States in the world had changed. So yes, it was a rough transition, and I went right back into international development based from the United States, but at the same time, and those people understood me and I understood them, but
Yeah.
everybody around me, it was a difficult transition, as you say. It was more than jarring. It was uncomfortable. Yeah.
I can feel that it just like going into, your local grocery store and community. It's like, do you guys have any idea of what's happening in the world, right? Like we all need to help, or I would feel like that and not having your lived experience, but I feel like there was a little bit of that probably.
Well, here's a funny story, actually,
Yeah.
because I was back in my hometown. I was just back in my hometown. And in most places in the world, strangers talk to each other. I mean, they just get into conversations. Americans, particularly on the East Coast, not so much. They're
Yep.
not built that way. And so I was back in New Jersey in my hometown, and I walked down to the town area, and I walked into one of the shops, and I greeted the person who was behind the desk and said, "Hello, how are you? How's your family? How are things going today for you?" And he looked at me as if I was out of my mind.
Mm.
I mean, really, he was looking sideways at me, because those kinds of conversations, how are you? How's your family? How's your days? Normal. It doesn't happen here. And I could tell, he just thought I was nuts. And I had to remind myself, actually, over and over and over again, that there are certain types of interactions, verbal as well as physical, that we do not do here. I came back to the United States to do a master's. I arrived back here and went right into a master's of international public health at Johns Hopkins University. Pretty high stress,
Mm-hmm.
very driven people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one interaction. I was working with a fellow student who's American, and he and I were leading a program together as a part of the student academic orientation and program. And I walked up to him, and I grabbed his upper arm, not hard, but I grabbed his upper arm, and I moved very close to him, within 6 or 7 inches. And he literally shook me off and stepped back. And at that time, again, I said to myself, right, we don't do that here.
Wow. Wow. What an adjustment. And also I can't help but just feel envious that I of the experiences you got of talking to everyone, and because that's I'm that type of person. I love to talk to everyone. I will talk to a wall, but I also live on the East Coast and nobody wants to talk back to me usually. So what a gift you had by experiencing a different way of life and that closeness of community even to strangers.
It's really lovely. Uh, just to reiterate or add to, the loneliest I think I have ever felt in my life was when I moved back to the United States.
Fast forward to now though, are you feeling better? Are you just
Oh, I'm feeling much better. I mean, I'm very, very good at entertaining myself,
Mhm.
and I mean that in a positive way. So I can work for hours by
Yeah.
myself, and I can go for walks by myself, and I can take myself out by myself, and I've come to be able to do that really, really well. And so yes, I'm comfortable here, and still when I am in an environment where there are people from other cultures around, I'm probably even more comfortable.
I feel that. I can
Yeah,
feel that.
yeah.
I think that's so beautiful. So I want to get back to your story because after your work here, you began to develop a specialty in preventing and mitigating child sexual abuse and other adverse childhood experiences. Can you share a moment or perhaps a realization that set you on that path?
It was boom. I was in my office at the International Health and Development Agency where I was working Washington, D.C.,
Mm,
and a notice came across my screen, and it said it was from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, our CDC, and it was looking for proposals on all aspects of interpersonal violence, IPV.
hmm
And one of there was bullying, there was elder abuse, there was domestic violence, there was neglect, and there was child abuse. And I went into the area on child abuse and started reading there because my sister was a therapist out
Okay.
in Santa Cruz, California, Amy Pine. And she had gotten a positive reputation of being able to successfully work with survivors of child sexual abuse. She was a therapist, as I say. And I started reading there. And I'll tell you, Ashley, it was a shock. I mean, at that point, I had been working for more than 2 decades in international health and development. And I got through a PhD, two master's degrees, and an undergraduate from Cornell starting out in medicine without one course in childhood trauma.
Wow.
I don't even know how that happens. And so I went around my colleagues where in the agency where I was working, and I said, did you have any coursework in childhood trauma or child sexual abuse? Not a one of them did. And given the numbers, 1 out of 4 girls, 1 out of 4 to 5 girls at this point, one
Mhm.
out of 6 to 8 boys at this
Mhm.
point in the United States alone are sexually abused by the time that they're 18 years old, which which translates, Ashley, into more than 55 adult survivors of child sexual abuse in the US alone, and the vast majority tell no one. And given the impact and the outcomes of all of this, psychological problems, physical problems, sociological problems, economic problems, even early death and chronic disease and early death, I looked at this and I said, how do I know nothing
Mm.
about this? And I started talking to my sister, and I said, we should partner our organizations. And I wrote a grant. The first grant that I wrote, I actually got funded for a few $100,000. And that's a lot of money to a small nonprofit anywhere in the United States. And it was true for them too, out in Santa Cruz, California. And I designed and we started a comprehensive program that looked at education, advocacy, outreach, training, and direct service. And we started going along those lines, but it was hard. It was hard to get the money and it
Mhm.
was hard to talk to people. And as with my communication hat, I said, this is an advocacy and awareness problem. So
Mm.
I started a major event called the Race to Stop the Silence in downtown Washington, D.C. And
Mhm.
it took place every April during child abuse awareness month,
Mhm.
every April for 10 years, from 2004 to 2013. And at its height, we had more than 1,200 runners and walkers,
Wow.
all wearing Stop the Silence, Stop Child Sexual Abuse on their backs. And then I kept going. I started the organization, which was originally called Stop the Silence, Stop Child Sexual Abuse.
Mhm.
And the focus remained the same: advocacy, education, training, and some policy development and reform work as well.
Wow.
So it was, the beginning of this was an awareness moment of why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we doing something about this? Why is this such a critical issue affecting so many people that we're not focused on? Why is that?
Yeah, so let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Let's talk about it because the impact of child sexual abuse is vast, as you said, emotionally, physically, socially. Um, what do you think why are we talking about this more? And what's preventing people from fully acknowledging the scale of the problem?
I've watched a change over the last 25 years. Thankfully, not enough of a change, but I've watched a change. And I have come to understand more about why we don't talk about it.
Hmm.
We're saying child and sex in the same sentence. Doesn't make people comfortable.
Yeah,
We're talking about an issue that is shame laden. The shame should not be on the kids, but they take it on.
of
This is
course.
a very, very intimate situation, obviously. And we're talking about, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year olds. The typically child sexual abuse on average starts at the age of 7, but there are many, many cases of it starting much younger and going through the teen years. So the level of shame, and then if the family finds out, there's shame on top of fear, on top of anger, on top of discomfort. Nobody wants it to get out that it has happened in their family. So, Susie, shut up. It never happened. Don't mention it again.
I
And
imagine that's probably just as traumatizing for the child too.
absolutely. And what often happens because of that is the kids stuff it. They stuff it down to the point often that they block it out for
Mhm.
literally decades. I know a lot of people, Ashley, who who blocked this literally until they were in their 30s and 40s. And all of a sudden something happens, either they relax enough or they're seeing a therapist or what have you, and it all bubbles up.
Yeah.
A lot of people are dealing with this through use of alcohol and drugs because they're self-medicating, they're numbing themselves out so that they don't have to deal with what those memories are about and how difficult it is for them to handle. So we keep quiet, the kids keep quiet, they're told to keep quiet, the adults keep quiet, also out of shame, fear, discomfort, etc., etc. And the justice system, our legal and justice system, is not dealing with this well, and that is true still. So if this issue winds up in the courts and judges have very, very little understanding or background, they are making absolutely the wrong call for these kids on a regular basis, often sending them back to their perpetrator fathers without understanding the dynamics of the courtroom and the family dynamics, believing often that the mother's crazy. Women are always crazy.
Ugh,
The men typically have much more money to spend on good lawyers. So the courtroom situation is often really adverse for the entire family and for the kids and what happens to them. We need to be protecting the kids. We need to be preventing this. We need to be knowledgeable about what to say if a child comes forward,
right.
which is, it's not your fault. I believe you. I'm going to try to help you.
Mm,
Instead of saying this never happened, Uncle Bobby would never do that, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very complex situation, particularly on the child sexual abuse side, but also on with regard to the other adverse childhood experiences, the hitting and the psychological abuse and the neglect and all of those things. It's a very complicated issue, but
mm,
we can make the messages simple. Look, we did this with breast cancer. When I
that-
was growing up,
that's
Ashley,
right.
we didn't say the word breast out loud when I was growing up. You certainly didn't put it in the same sentence with cancer, which we also didn't talk about. But now we talk about it all the time. It's on it's on television, it's on
Mm-hmm,
radio ads. Uh,
mm-hmm,
Self breast examination is in
mm-hmm,
our regular dialogue.
mm-hmm.
We also did it with HIV/AIDS.
That's right.
So we know how to do this in terms of the messages and the communication. We're just not doing it well. I think because of the overlay of the discomfort and the shame and the fear and all of those kinds of things.
So it's as a mother, it's this is a lot for me to take in. But I think it's also so important for us to take in as parents, caregivers, friends, family. What I'm hearing from you is there's an awareness and an education problem. I mean, the
Right.
fact that you said the courts, I mean, I can't even imagine sending a child back to the perpetrator, but that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So tell me what Stop Silence is now doing to protect, save these children.
We're doing a few key programs, conducting a few key programs right now. One is that we have a certificate an online at your own pace, on your own time, certificate to master's degree in child trauma and protection. It's highly affordable because it's online with 4 live classes. I come in every month and we do an online class, and the students also present to each other.
Mm,
Because it's online, it's accessible to anybody in the world, around the world. So we've had people from about 10 or 12 different countries take this. It's been going for about 2.5 years,
wow.
and it's been very successful. I mean, I could show you the testimonials that we've gotten that are make me really happy and give me some hope. You were talking to me about hope before we got
Hmm.
on here,
Hmm.
because people are saying this changed my life. This changed my understanding of what is going on. This changed my ability to work with children or work with adults. We've had teachers and social workers and physicians and uh, lawyers and advocates and all different types of people, literally from all over the world, take this, and they're responding to it in the same way. And I'm going to take this information, they say, out to my community, and I'm going to share it with my community. So that's one program that's ongoing and will continue to be ongoing. We also work with a partner in New Zealand, and that partner is called My River. It's MYRIVR. And we've been working with them on and off for a number of years now because they've developed an amazing app that's downloadable for free to anybody that wants to use it in whatever country it's set up. And those people can ask for assistance from thousands of providers that are listed once they load the app. And those providers, with their permission, with the downloader's permission, can interact with each other in real time so that the police know what the social service people are doing, know what the therapist is doing, and everybody can coordinate.
Talking to each other.
Exactly. So getting the real help in a broad way to the people who are looking for it. We're about to submit actually a grant to support a program that helps people report these types of emergencies to a team of people who do intake. And that's in one proposal is going in for Peru and one proposal is going in for Samoa. So we're hoping to get those. So that's something else that we do. And then we do continue to do a whole lot of advocacy. I do a lot of speaking, and I show up at any type of organization, from social services to people who are working on substance use issues to corporate uh, environments, to talk to them, to talk to HR people and managers about the fact that if you were to address the issues of child trauma that the people who are working for you have, you would both increase your productivity and your bottom line.
Wow.
So that's something else that I do on a regular basis. And then we have, this, that, and the other program going on. I write, as you know, so I get information out there in that way as well.
Yeah, speaking of writing, you have your book, Stop the Silence, Thriving After Child Sexual Abuse. So it centers not only on survival, but thriving. So can you tell us, what does that path look like for survivors?
It's different for individual survivors,
Mhm.
and there are, as I mentioned before, there are certain types of impacts on people, men, boys, girls, men, and women. Often they are similar, but not the same. And so working through the experience of having been sexually or physically or otherwise abused takes time, takes commitment, usually involves a therapeutic situation.
Mhm.
The average age at which people tell, this is a statistic from about 10 years ago, so it might be changing. But at that point, the average age at which a person tells anyone that they were sexually abused is 52 years old.
Oh my word.
So they've gone for 4 decades without being able to address the issues that are
Because
going on for
it's
them.
so shameful.
Right.
So it's personally, I have not ex I've experienced childhood trauma, but in a very different way. That my father died in front of me when I was 11, and I can say I buried that for
Right.
until I was in my 30s, and it
Right.
and then it came out in a crazy health crisis because I spent my whole life not wanting to talk about it, so I can see, even though it's a different situation, how it feels so much safer to hold it in.
Right. Right. What's going to happen if I tell? What's going
Yeah,
to happen? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? I know people who've lost their entire families because they refuse to stay silent any longer.
right. Because there's so much shame in it. And then also it's like, what's going to happen if I actually give myself permission to say it out loud and then move through this process of feeling those
Right.
feelings, which I could only imagine is the other element of trauma too. And
Right. It's tough. It's really hard for people to
yeah.
cope with and to work through. So how does it look for different survivors? It looks it looks like a process that has everything to do with who the individual person is.
Mm,
Do they get help from their family or not?
right. Right.
Do they get therapeutic intervention early or do they not? Do they
Yeah.
have support from their significant others or do they not? Do they get themselves, and this is not atypical, do they get themselves again into abusive situations because there's we have this expression, a boy marries his mother and a girl marries her father.
Yeah.
What that really is saying is that we are attracted to not only looks, but we're attracted to certain type of emotional interactions. And so we often, and people who are survivors of various types of abuse often pick partners who put them in abusive situations. And
Mm-hmm.
so, is that what happened? Is that what has happened to some people? Absolutely, a lot of people. So it's a different. This book is written by 22 international survivors of child sexual abuse and me. So there are 23 chapters. There's a really great introduction and forward by someone, one of our partners, one of the guys in New Zealand. And they are also from various parts of the world. And so they are giving their perspective on what happened. It's their story, what happened to them. And then at the end of every chapter is something called the practice. And they get to talk about and explain how their healing and
Mm.
how their thriving took place. So the book is geared toward both survivors of child sexual abuse, as well as service providers, to help them understand the different ways that people can heal. Because, as I said, I came out with from too much education, knowing nothing, and a lot
Mhm.
of
Right.
therapists as well are not really introduced to the intricacies of these issues. So it's really expansive. It's also geared towards those people who want to know more about this subject and their communities and how they can help. So it's a great book for all of those purposes.
Honestly, it should be necessary reading, not only as you went through undergraduate, graduate. I mean, that blows my mind that you didn't have one lesson, but also parents, educators. I
That's
just
right.
feel like I love also that there's the thriving piece at the end of it. I remember when I went through my health crisis, I was like, I don't want to hear about everyone who is not healed yet. I want to hear about the people who have healed and like the what happens once they do the healing work. And once I did that, everything shifted for me, which gave me finally permission after 30 years to move through my grief, move through my grief for my dad, grief for my health. And that's actually what made me heal. So I feel like this is vital reading for so
Yeah,
many people.
it absolutely is. It absolutely. We've been talking to various universities about putting it on their reading list.
Yeah.
And there is an organization actually out in Utah. Is it Utah, or Wisconsin? I was speaking in both of those places, that is putting it on their must read list for the organizations that they are the umbrella for. So that's great. Yeah.
I'm so happy that that's happening. So I'm curious as we wrap up here, Dr. Pine, for those that are listening, for educators, thought leaders, moms, parents, dads, survivors, what can we do to further educate ourselves, but also get involved in the very, I mean, I'm moved just from this short conversation. What can we do to get involved? in your work?
There's so much, little and medium and big. You start where you want to. For one thing, educate yourself. And
Mm,
there's lots of ways to do that. The book is one way. Our certificate to master's degree online, which is highly affordable, is another way. You can write directly to me, and I'm going to give you my email and my website to write directly to me, and I'll send you information if you'd like it. My email is Pamela, it's Pamela P, the first letter of my last name. So Pamela P at IVAT centers with an S.org. So Pamela P at ivatcenters.org. And the website is ivatcenters.org. If you'd like to bring me in to speak, you can learn more about my speaking and what the various subjects that I speak about that are related to these issues at drpamelajpine.com. And there's too much information there. So, feel free to write to me and ask me more. But if you would like to have somebody come in and educate your company, your nonprofit, your corporate entity, I'm happy to do that. In fact, it's more and more of a focus of mine. So, reach out. And there, as I say, you could reach out to your community. You can provide information to your schools. You can get involved with and being an advocate, for example. You can, oh gosh, send out information to various organizations. Bring me in to speak. Read the book. I mean, so many ways to begin the conversation. I used to joke, Ashley, and I still do, that I could clear a cocktail party in 5 minutes. Just ask me what I do. And so we're trying to change that. We're trying to change that orientation. Talk about it. Don't
yeah.
be afraid. And if you need some support in how to do that, please reach out.
I'm so grateful for this conversation, and I want to be a part of that change. And I'd love to invite you back on the show for a part two.
Happy to.
I feel like we have so much more to uncover here, so much more education. And as our mission is to uplift the voices of those who are changing the world. You are doing that, Dr. Pine, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of the education and awareness standpoint. So I just want to thank you first for being here, but also just to honor you for the work that you're doing, the clear the cocktail party type work that you're doing, having those uncomfortable, difficult conversations that are so vital to the healing of our children and our future. So thank you for your time, your energy, your expertise. This has moved me as a parent, as a leader, and I'm excited to have you back on the show. So thank
I
you.
would love to do that. And I might just mention one last really quick thing. There are other books focused on other things as well. And if a parent wants to talk to a child, I have a chapter in a book called Brave Kids, Volume 3. The lead author is Kelly Kashula,
Okay.
but my chapter, it's either 20 or 21. I always forget which one it is. But it's a chapter, it's a children's story that a parent can read to a child. It's called Squishies and Scooshes Shared Secret. And it's a
Okay.
and it's about two twin froglets. And it goes through a really true process of how this takes place with the grooming and the intervention of adults and what happens. So if you're looking to have a conversation with your kid, that chapter might be of interest to you as well.
So important. We'll make sure to reference this in our show notes. I'm so excited to continue this conversation with you because I will say, I agree. It is important to have these uncomfortable conversations. I don't think change is created without them, and this is one of the reasons why we love to bring experts on like yourself. So I'm ready to clear the cocktail party with you. And hopefully our listeners and viewers will join
or
us.
not clear the
Or
cocktail
not clear
party.
it. How about we
Yeah,
fill it up? So I want our
there you
listeners to
go.
join us
Yeah.
again. We'll fill up our cocktail party. So whether you're driving in the car, listening at home, on your walk, we hope you'll join us again. Dr. Pamela J. Pine, thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of the change and looking forward to having you on again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. So for all of our listeners and viewers, thank you again for joining us. You're so important to us. You're a part of the movement, a part of the change. Please make sure to check out Dr. Pamela J. Pine and her incredible work. And for any more information you want to learn about the great work we're doing to help uplift the voices of those who are changing the world, visit our website at nardimedia.com. All right. We'll see you next time.